Guzzers. Going Indian tonight. British beer though. And in fact, we're having lentils. It's a vegetarian, probably even vegan dish. Definitely vegetarian. My vegan nephew might say, oh, not quite vegan, but anyway, pretty damn close. So I was saying, it's from Nadiya's book, a spice book. I've made some bread, I made some, I can't remember what else. But anyway, we're going to make a brown dal from her book, although I'm going to vary it slightly because actually I've cooked this already. I cooked this for some friends, one of whom's vegetarian, and although I was planning on cooking it, I was cooking it in their kitchen. Sorry, planning on filming it. I was going to cook it in the kitchen, and it was a bit difficult, even though the kitchen's far better than mine, far bigger. I probably need studio lights. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's get on with it. So I am going to alter Nadiya's recipe. I did slightly for my friends, mainly because her husband's a wuss and he wouldn't have any chillies in it, so I left the chillies out. We are going to put some chillies, but we're not going to put as many actually as Nadiya uses. And also, what we discovered, and also she cooked it as well later, a week later, because her husband actually liked my version of it, and she made the comment about it was a bit too wet. You'll see what I mean when I come to it. So we're going to cut back the quantity of liquid, increasing the amount of net lentils I'm putting in, and also, like I say, I'm cutting back the amount of chillies I use. And also there's one other slight deviation, that's because the bloody wife can't take instructions about her bloody shopping. So, here we got Nadiya's lentil dal. And what I'm going to start with is by opening these cans of lentils up. Now she says use 400 grams of brown lentils. Well, I can't find brown lentils, they're all green, but they look brown. And if she means a 390 gram can that's got the liquid in it, you ain't going to get much out of that for two people. This is meant to be cooked. I think it was for, is it for 2 or 4? I can't remember. So we're using 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tip these out into a strainer, and you want to rinse them until the rinse water's all nice and clear. Get the lentils nice and clean. So I've emptied and rinsed 2 cans into here. Tesco's, your fucking ring pull cans, I'll show it. So I'm going to have to use the tin opener on that one. So, like I say, we rinse them. Actually, surprisingly, it takes quite a lot of rinsing for the rinse water stops being foamy and sort of a bit brown colour. So I'm just going to get them done, and then we'll get cooking that. Now there's sort of 2 cooking parts to this. There's we cook our lentils, and then we're going to make something called a tarka, which ultimately all gets chucked in with the lentils anyway. So in goes that last lot of rinsed lentils. Now, like I say, we're going to cook these lentils first. You're going to need a pan big enough, obviously, for that amount of lentils and the other stuff we're going to put in there. Although the tarka doesn't really take up an awful lot of volume. My big glass doesn't either. Now, in with our lentils, we're going to want some bay leaves. So about 3 or 4 bay leaves. Now, this is where the wife went a little bit amiss. You're going to put in 100 grams of lime pickle. Now, I only had about 20 grams left, so I instructed her to purchase some more. Where's my little thingy gone? What's my little thingy, as he actually said to the bishop. My little sweetheart, lime pickle is not lime chutney. In fact, actually, I'm not even sure it's lime chutney. Let's have a look in the fridge. What's it called? Lime and chilli chutney. So it's got the heat, and it's technically got lime in it. It's chutney, it's sweet. Can upset your calorie count, woman, but there you go. So anyway, 100 grams of that goes in there. Right, we want about a teaspoon of salt. And your thingy's gone. Okay, and I'm just chucking a coarse salt in there, it don't really matter because it's all going to get down, as it were. So, I'll pick on turmeric. Got a teaspoon of turmeric. In that goes. And then we're going to want the water. Now, Nadiya's book, for 400 grams, she says put a litre in. The thing would be like, well, it'd be even more of a drink than soup is. So I'm going to start with about 500-600 grams. Okay. You can always add some more if you wish. Okay. That sort of barely covers it all. But we're now just going to cook that. Just stirring that all in. But we're just now going to cook that. Where shall I put that? Let me put it on there. Okay, and most of the cooking is going to be in that stage. Okay, we can cook it for about 40 minutes uncovered, giving it a stir every now and again. So I'm just going to put it on this back burner, which I know is my big burner, and we'll just put it on low. Okay, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. So we may or may not want to top it up with a little bit of liquid. It depends on really how liquid you want it. Now, the remaining thing I said you would make is the tarka. So don't necessarily need to make that just yet, but we'll sort of go through what we're going to need and get it sort of started. For our tarka, let me use that. Let me get that one. Is an onion. Okay, I've got a red onion here. Brown onion really would be more suitable, but I've got red onions. And you're going to want at least 8 cloves of garlic. Both of these, well, that's going to be sliced, and they're going to be thinly sliced. And then you're going to need 100 grams of butter to fry these up in. And also, like I say, she recommends 6 dried chillies. I'm going to just put 2 in. Okay. And then the final ingredient, which we don't put in initially, excuse me, oh, I thought I filled that up. Better fill it up. Is 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. But we put that in quite near the end. So, rice is good, but lentil is my life. Old Hindu saying. Essentially, lentils are a staple part. A staple part of an Indian diet. Okay, lentils are like this power food, if you like. And Daal is made from lentils. Now, lentils come in a lot of different colours. You've got red ones, orange ones, yellow ones, brown ones and black ones. And they were one of the first plants to actually be domesticated more than 12,000 years ago. Now, the area that began this cultivation, I thought there'd be more close to that, wasn't it? That was very small. The area of this sort of centre of agriculture, or what was to become the centre of agriculture, if you like, covers present-day Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Israel, Jordan, and then parts of northern Egypt, parts of Kuwait, Turkey, and present-day Iran. Iran, not Iran. Was it Iran? I can't remember now. Anyway, like I say, the lentils were one of the first things to be cultivated, along with the early varieties of barley and wheat. But in that region, it was the lentil that reigned supreme. And part of that was because of how well lentils grew in such arid conditions that that area pretty much had. The lentils need about 1/10 of the water that say, so well, if you do it by protein content, lentils require about the 1/10 of their water content that, say, cows would need to generate the same amount of protein. So they are very water efficient protein makers, if you like. Right, I'm just going to get rid of all my bits here so that we can then get chopping, and I can top my beer up. So I've just given me lentils a little bit of a stir. They're not quite up to boil yet. When they are, I'll put a timer on for about 40 minutes. Now, I'll tell you about the protein content of lentils, and actually it is believed that along with chickpeas and other peas, the protein content, and in some respects the ease with which you could grow these things, meant that it may have been the main contributor to communities, villages and communities, farming communities, being founded by these early human hunter-gatherers. And so that during Neolithic times, they began to settle and farm the land simply because they were gaining the protein, although obviously they didn't sit there and know that themselves, but they were gaining the proteins that perhaps nowadays we tend to more gain from, meat. Whereas at that time, domesticating sort of farming animals was probably not quite on the agenda properly anyway. But at that point in time, the lentil hadn't reached India. And India, oh, I haven't had enough to drink yet. India is now considered to be the main sort of source, if you like, of lentils. Going back to what I was saying about Neolithic times, the other benefit of these was that they were easily stored, and they would store, so therefore you grew them, harvested them, and you could basically put them away, so outside of harvest time you still had this highly important source of protein. So it is believed, like I say, that was the reason lentils became, for some communities, the staple diet. So I've thinly sliced my onions, and now what we're going to do is just thinly slice the garlic, and that's just about all the actual physical part of the cooking bit. Oh, that's now just coming up to the boil. I'm just going to give that another little stir. Now, I don't know, when I cooked this before, like I said, and actually when my friend cooked it before, and I did actually last time cook it for a lot longer, thinking it hadn't had quite long enough. Because whenever I've had a dal in an Indian restaurant in England, it does tend to be a lot more mushy. More like a paste, like a soup, if you like. Whereas, unless it's just these particular lentils I'm using, although they were soft, they didn't actually sort of go like mushy. Nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying, if you're used to those kind of dals, you might be thinking, what the bloody hell's going on in my pot? On the other end, you might say, I don't give a shit what's going on in my pot, I just want to eat the bastard. So we're just slicing up the garlic. So, about 4,000, 5,000 BC, lentil cultivation began to move eastwards, and it's thought that about 2000 BC lentils had reached India, and there is archaeological evidence to suggest that from about 2800 BC lentils were forming a lot of dishes found in India, and at about that same time the Daal made its appearance. I'll tell you a little bit about what we mean by Daal in a minute. But the Daal made its appearance and lentils became the staple food of India. Now, I was telling you about the water, and I was telling you about in comparison with beef. For instance, the amount of water needed to produce 1 kilo of lentils, if you like, is a tenth of what is needed to make 1 kilo of beef. So you can see how in arid and dry countries, let's give this another little stir. I've set my timer on, by the way. By the way, this is another one, this has got bay leaves in it. Just remember, when one is served a bowl of dal or whatever that's got bay leaves in it, don't eat with bay leaves. You can even eat them if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. And this is, I wouldn't say it's thickening yet, but it certainly doesn't need any more water. So, that's my garlic chop, that's my onion chop, got my dried chillies, got my 100 grams of butter, I've got my 2 teaspoons of uji, cumin, ground cumin. Now, you would traditionally serve this with rosti, chapati, naans, or even rice. We're going to do it with some chapatis, okay? Only because the wife's not really eating bread. She did say, can I have it with rice? And I said, I ain't doing loads of bloody rice, just to have it with that. Which to me, it seems a bit weird, having rice with a dal. But anyway, never mind. So, let me just have a little tidy up. And then we'll start thinking about cooking our tarka. Even time to have a beer. So let's start making our tarka. That's been cooking for about 20 odd minutes, so we've still got 20 odd minutes to go. I did just add a little touch more extra boiling water because I thought it was getting a little bit on the thin side. And now to me it looks a bit runny, but anyway. So to make the tarka, which in a way is a bit like, I know we put the turmeric and the lime pickle in there, or lime chutney. We're going to add a bit more sort of onion, garlic and, like I say, chilli and other spice. So into this pan I'm going to put 100 grams of unsalted butter. To be honest, I don't think it really makes much difference in this case whether it's salted or unsalted. I'm just going to put that on a low heat and we're going to melt that down. Now, Nadiya says when that's melted, then fry the garlic, but normally garlic goes a bit too quick, so I'm going to put the onion in first, and then we're going to cook the onion for a little bit before we add the garlic. Now, I keep on talking about a dal. What is a dal? Well, a dal basically are dried or split pulses, so it doesn't have to be lentils, it could be chickpeas or even beans. But they need to be the ones that don't need soaking beforehand, before cooking, that is. And not only did I say that India is like the main source of lentils, India is the main source of most pulses in the world. Because of how important those pulses are to their cuisine. Now, like I told you, dal is frequently eaten with like flatbreads and things like that, but sometimes it's actually almost reduced down to a paste and then dried, pardon-moi, or it could be dried and fried, or dried and fried and salted, and sold as and eaten as like snacks. I suppose a bit like we will have crisps. No, chips are made from potato, and yes, I know crisps are, but chips are big chunky bits of potato, thank you. They are not crisps. I hope you Americans are paying attention. A chip is a chunk. A crisp is a thin wafer that is crispy. And although you might say chips can be crispy, they're crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, especially if you cook them properly. Crisps and chips are different. So this butter's just about melted, so at this point I'm going to add in those onions, and we're now just going to cook them through. Ultimately we're going to want the onions and the garlic all nice and golden brown, not burnt. So at this point I'm going to add in my garlic.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
What is wrong with this stupid fucking bread? How did any of that sound like? Did it? Use the tart. So now I'm just going to chuck that garlic in, and we're going to continue cooking that through for a few minutes before we add our chilli. Like I say, the ground cumin we're not going to add until basically that's cooked and ready to chuck in there. And again, I'll keep my eye on that. So anyway, I keep mentioning the word Daal. Well, Daal derives from a Sanskrit word, basically Daal, to split. Because the lentil is basically, you know, split into two, if you like, you know, before we get to that stage, and split when it gets in there. And that's from a Proto-Indo-European word, essentially saying the same thing, which means to split or divide. So that's why it's called a dal. It's also why it doesn't have to be just lentils. Right, so we are now going to chunk in them chillies. Like I say, we're only using 2, and we're just going to now let that saute in that butter until, like I say, the onions are nice and golden, and the chillies should, as they absorb some of the moisture and the fat that's in there, plump up, but we'll wait and see. When I made this before, I made this with a mild lime pickle, and that it imparted upon it a nice little bit of a tang from the lime, but also you did get some heat from that lime pickle. Bear in mind that was a mild pickle. Most of that is a hot chutney. So it'd be interesting to see, with the combination of that and actually putting a couple of chillies in, what it's going to turn out like. But essentially, all else you're going to need, like I said, a cumin at the end, but you're going to want some fresh coriander, but that's more just almost like a garnish. So really, I've told you about the lentil, I've told you about the dal. Not that much to tell you. I think this might be my last beer of the evening, not my last drink. My God, what are you thinking? Our lentils just had like 40 minutes, and I had a little taste, and they've gone softened. There is still not like the mushy dals, like I say, that I've experienced in an Indian restaurant, but they're nice and soft. And our tarka is now starting to brown. Okay, obviously with the red onion it's a little bit difficult to be quite the same colour as like a brown onion when it browns. But what we're now going to do is turn that off, the heat off of that. And I've got my bowls prepared, I've got some chapatis ready, and I've also got some fresh coriander that I've basically torn up a little bit by hand. And we're just going to let the heat on this die down a little bit. We'll turn the heat off the lentils, and now we're just going to mix in our ground cumin, and now that we're happy that that's all mixed in, we're going to chuck all of that into there. And then what I'm going to do, very carefully because it is my cast iron Dutch oven, move that forward, and we're now just going to mix that all in together. Wouldn't say the chillies plumped up quite like I was expecting. Like I said, I didn't put any chillies in last time. Nadiya said, you know, wait until they look nice and plump. They've obviously got a bit more pliable, but I wouldn't say they've plumped up. So, I think that's just about all stirred in. Now I did have a little taste of the lentils, just see if they're soft enough. And I think that chutney has resulted in it a slightly different taste than it had than last time. It doesn't have quite that same tang, that's quite a zing that the pickle gave it. It did have a bit more heat to it. Like I said to you, I used a mild lime pickle last time. This was a little bit of lime, a mild lime pickle, and then the rest of it was hot chilli chutney or lime chutney. So I think that has changed it somewhat. So, time to dish it out and let's taste it. The finished article, that is. So I've dished some up, there's a little bit left, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of coriander, quite a lot actually, and let's give it a taste. So let's just try this bit over here on its own. Bear in mind, don't eat the bay leaves, and you probably don't want to eat the chilli either. Like I say, I think I'm starting to get the heat through. It doesn't come through initially. The heat is building now. I might have to finish that bit off a bit quick. Although it's not that hot. Equally, the profile's changed from before, mainly I think because of that chutney. But very, very nice. Getting the garlic. Don't know about so much the onion. Definitely getting the heat come through. Partly from that hot chutney, but also from them chillies. Could have probably got away with putting more chillies in it. But if you don't like chillies, if you prefer you don't want the heat, leave the chillies out. Like I said, my friend's husband, he don't like chilli at all, but he actually felt that the mild pickle we put in, which had that little mild heat, that was just about his limit, and he enjoyed that and he wanted it again. But just going a bit. But that was a bit hot. Not hot chilli hot, just hot. But there you go, that's Nadiya's brown dal, which we're going to be having with some chapatis. Cheers.